when you do make mistakes, it's actually an opportunity to acknowledge that your imperfection can actually be a point of connection with your daughter, because as you respond to yourself, she'll see that in the moment and learn from you how to respond and work through when you make mistakes.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 336. Today, we're talking about mothering your daughter mindfully with Dr. Michelle Deering. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have, and when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark Fields. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of Mindful Parenting, and I'm the author of the best-selling book, Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Hey, welcome. I am so glad you are here today for this important episode. But listen, if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you've gotten value from this podcast, if you've ever gotten value, please do me a favor and just go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. It really just helps the podcast grow more. It will take 30 seconds, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. In just a moment, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Michelle Deering, who believes that every mother and daughter should have a thriving, loving relationship. And she has a very refreshing approach. She's a sought after speaker, an online educator, and a consultant. Before running her consulting business, Michelle served as a licensed psychologist and board certified sports psychologist at a Big Ten university, Fortune 500 corporate trainer, and higher education professional. Nowadays, you'll find her speaking at conferences, training for her next Spartan sprint race, and practicing rudiments on her drum kit, all while coaching, serving clients, and recording her podcast, Mother Daughter Connections. And I'm so excited to talk to her. You can also hear me on her podcast, Mother Daughter Connections. We talked to each other. We really had such a great time. And what we're going to talk about today is the mother-daughter relationship and how it really comes with its fair share of unique challenges. So if you are a mother and you have a daughter, this is for you. There's some complexity to in this relationship, and we're going to talk about how we can best navigate the challenges while appreciating that unique bond that really comes with raising a daughter. So I can't wait for you to join me. Let's dive right in and talk to Dr. Michelle Deering. I would just wondered if you could start off this conversation by telling us, like, what are kind of the some of the special challenges that mothers may have with daughters that could be different? Like, what makes it different and special?
Yeah, it's different and special. I like that you actually include those two words together. But the arc of the relationship between a mom and a daughter is different than the one between a mom and a son, in that when your child is born, and we're going to assume in this case it's your daughter, there's a connection that's made between the mom looking at, cooing at, responding to the daughter, and that your daughter in your arms is now experiencing you as her first female object, okay, um, entity outside of herself. And what happens is, as your daughter develops and she goes into her toddler years, we won't cover that, goes into her tween years, that's where around that time, tween teen, is when developmentally a daughter is now having had what 10, 11 years of experiencing you as her mom. She's now getting to a point where her identity is starting to develop, and she has to come to decisions as to whether or not she wants to be like you or not, or what does it mean to her to, here's what femaleness has been modeled to me all this time, is this what I want to do? And so her process then becomes, how do I identify as myself, my own separate entity outside of my mom, and will my mom be okay with that? Okay. And that comes in all shapes and sizes. Whereas with a son, you still have the same, caring and nurturing, the way in which you respond to your child, say in the case of him being the child being a son, the way in which you respond to him tells him stuff about the outside world, but not about his maleness.
Mm,
And so when he reaches his teen years, that becomes his identity thing, and he's looking for what he's going to model himself after. And a mom, depending on, again, everyone's different in their take on things. That's where the struggle begins. But there's more of a definitive separateness.
mhm.
That's
Yeah, that
just
makes sense.
biological. That's just
Yeah.
biological. Whereas with a young lady, it's like, wait, you look like me. I don't know. I don't know
So
if I want to do it exactly like you, mom. And that's where the
yeah.
tussle begins. Yes.
Yeah, so, like, my daughters are, basically saying like, evaluating, like, I've got good things, I got bad things, and from there, I've got some good traits, and I've got some bad traits, I've got some annoying traits, know.
We all
And
do.
and so they're like, am I when I see this thing that maybe they don't like or whatever in me, is that part of who or in their mom, right? That
Mhm.
is that part of who I am, right? This is the question they're asking themselves. And or then they want to say, I'm not like you in these places, right? Like they want to really make that clear.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that I tell a lot of my clients, and whether it's individual or in groups, is I let them know that the way in which you as an individual woman, i.e., mom, handle the experience of being separate, that is going to define and inform the way in which you deal with that whole process of your daughter transitioning out of being under your auspices directly to being outside of your auspices. And so,
Okay,
as you,
hold on.
okay.
So the way I'm dealing with like her separation, like us, like not maybe not having as much input and control and all of those things, you're saying that say that again, that
That
defines
that
like
that that will inform and influence how what's going on the inside of you. So say for instance, if you have a mom, my brain has been on moms of daughters who are athletes lately. And
okay.
so say you have a mom who, and I talk about this in my book, What Mothers Have to Tell Their Daughters, but where there is a mom who came to me, her daughter's a gymnast. The mom herself had experiences as a collegiate swimmer, but now here's her daughter as a gymnast, and ways in which the mom had not dealt well with performance
Mhm.
started to seep into how she was reacting to her
Mm,
daughter's response to her own performance, i.e., the daughter was like, wait, I'm not performing well. I want to go get help, which is how they ended up in my office. And the mother was like, what? I didn't do that. Why are you doing that? How do I know that that's going to work? So that's just an example
mhm,
of how when a daughter starts making decisions that are different than what the mother may
mhm.
have thought they should make, or
Yeah.
the time of when they should have made those decisions, that all plays into it. So that's more of what I'm saying. And actually, can you tell me a little bit how old your daughters are again?
Sure, they're right in your range. 11 and 14.
Okay, you're right in the thick of things. Yes.
Yep. Yep,
Yep.
I am.
I
Do you have
love it. I love
daughters?
it. Yes, actually, I have twin daughters who are now currently 20, going on 21. And so I do remember that age range, it playing out exactly like how it is. And what I found, just speaking as a mom here for a moment, that is that there were many things that I didn't realize were and I hate using the word triggering, but were prompting me to react a
Mm,
certain way. And that's why I'm all about moms learning how to pause, which is why I really appreciate the work that you do, because that it's in that pausing to consider what's going on in your behavior in the moment. That's how you can get your bearings on what's going on inside of you. And like for me, for our daughters, and even though they're twins, each one was pulling at a different thing in me, and I had
Mm.
to practice how to pause, to consider, okay, what's going on in the moment, not so much to, lay blame anywhere. It's all about gaining understanding,
Yeah.
because it's with understanding that you can then make informed decisions about what you do next, or what you say next, how you say something next.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't be a help to anything if you don't really fully understand the issue. If you're just on that autopilot,
Hmm.
that's amazing. Twin daughters, that's got to be a really intense experience. But at least it's great. Like you're remembering their birthday. That's no problem.
Right, it's the same birthday. It's the same birthday.
No, no birthday blanking for you. Uh, Well, it's interesting because,
Mm.
like, I can see my daughters are so different. My relationships with them are so
Mhm.
different. My 11-year-old daughter, she's more similar to my husband,
Okay.
in a lot of ways, like in the way she thinks, actually in her body shape and sort of in a funny way. Her face looks like mine. Like she can open my Face ID on the phone, um, but she, she's just like really just logical, very leadership oriented, wants to get things done and cross things off her list. And my 11-year-old is very emotionally intuitive and really can like see how things are affecting other people. She's very
Mhm.
empathetic.
Empathic. Mhm.
And the youngest one also like rides horses the way I did. And the oldest one thinks they're disgusting, smelly animals, all this kind of thing. So,
Mm.
but, we have a lot of places where we do overlap, but I can see that she's kind of moving into the stage. She's seeing that she and her dad share all these traits and she relates to a lot of the things that he does well. I
Mhm.
don't do so well. Like there's a lot of things I don't do so well.
Mhm.
And she, and so I can feel that pushback from her. And yet she, and it's interesting. With my youngest daughter, we're kind of more naturally like in sync. We have like the same humor.
Mhm.
Sometimes, at least this is all the way things are like kind of currently,
Right, right.
so it's interesting to kind of see these different patterns and dynamics playing out.
Yeah, I think it's and just so that folks know, just because my daughters are twins, they're fraternal twins, even though they looked
Mm,
alike when they were younger, but now they don't. Um, they are completely different. And so I chuckle as I'm listening to you recount these similarities, because similarly, my oldest twin has the temperament more like my husband, is a bookworm, even though they're both bookworms, but she's really a bookworm. And then my other daughter, the younger one, is more like temperament like I am. And so one of the things I encourage moms to really take into consideration is that even though there may be differences between you and the daughter that's not like you temperament wise, it's an opportunity to actually find and define a new common ground for the two
mm,
of you, as opposed to seeing it as, oh, there's just nothing we have in common. And so,
yeah.
that's the way it'll always be. And our relationship will be, that saddens me,
Mm,
because
mhm,
your daughters are there. You're their mom, for a reason. And they both need you. They just need you in different ways at different times.
mm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like a relationship with each member of my family, it's like it's a
Mhm.
relationship, right? Like any
Exactly.
relationship, it needs, you need to go out on dates, you need to find that common ground, right? Like you
Exactly.
need to talk to each
Exactly.
other and connect, and that's the glue. Um, yeah, and there's a little more challenging to sort of find those like connection points with the
Hmm.
my oldest daughter. We went on a this I don't want this to like sorry, dear listener, this is like hunter's therapy here. But we uh we went on a backcountry backpacking trip. The first
Hmm.
one overnight
Uh-huh.
when she was 11, just the two of us. She's really into like
Th-
nature and
this is your oldest?
mhm.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And I was, like, psyched about that, it was great. We had it was hard, but we had a
Hmm.
great time. And, um, and then recently she's had, like, a medical thing come up where she hasn't been able to walk and it hasn't been able to
Mm,
hike, or she hasn't been able
mhm,
to walk easily. She's not like on crutches or anything.
mhm,
But anyway, and it's she's
mm. She's
that
bumming.
was like our thing, and I was like, ah, dang it.
Mhm.
So it's like a little challenging, but I volunteer for different things. I'll volunteer. I was like the parent who was like, okay, you want to go on the scouts ice hike? I'm in. I'll go on the
Mm,
ice hike. Like, let's
mhm.
do the ice hike. So, I think is that, I mean, so when we think about the special challenges, those challenges are being like this differentiation, and there's this like real desire to differentiate, and that is normal and that makes sense. What are some of the ways that we can m- meet these special challenges of this sort of tween and teen time,
Yeah.
maybe skillfully and in a
Mhm.
way that preserves that connection, or and even what are some things we can do when they're younger? Like, I'd love to know kind of both those are 2 questions I realized, but
I'll deal with the older one first.
okay.
You said she's 14. This
Mhm.
is the prime time for and I hear the earnestness that you have to find activities with her, which are all well and good, but I'd encourage you to also consider that it's even more important to have 2 ears and 1 mouth, which is really doing double time on the listening. And by listening, I just don't mean by your physical ears, but also by your 2 eyes. Do double listening and half as much talking because she's got a lot of stuff that she's processing. And if she went from, and again, this is my sports psych hat going on, if she's gone from being active to not being able to move around as much, she's got a lot churning on inside. Uh, Between that loss and, you know, all the stuff that she may not be able to participate in, this is a perfect time for y'all to be just you seeing her, acknowledging that she is in a different state, uh, um, hearing her heart in terms of what emotions are going on inside of her about this change of state, and then understanding, communicating your understanding. And that just means something as simple as, I hear you, hon, because that can be tough. That kind of empathy that will go a long way in laying a groundwork and foundation for should her situation change and she's able to now resume things, or if her situation doesn't change, or if it stays the same, you know, as she goes through the next part of her high school career and experience. Um, for the younger ones, uh, really it's about, I mean, remembering that your mom, again, if you're talking about someone who's younger than the tween years, okay? I feel a lot of times, and I've noticed with, the clients who come to me, it's almost like they've abdicated their power
Mm.
as moms. It's like, no, as a mom, you can set ground rules. Yes, as a mom, you can um, express a preference for how you'd like things done, okay? And follow through on whatever you would think would be an age appropriate consequence for adhering or not adhering to that. Um, I think moms lose sight of that because they haven't paused to consider what's going on inside of them and how they really think and feel about such discipline. And I'm using air quotes, okay? Because that looks different for everybody.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break. I am incredibly picky about what I put on my skin. That is why I am so thrilled that this podcast is sponsored by Thrive Cosmetics. They have no parabens, sulfates, or phthalates. They're certified 100% vegan and cruelty free. I'm obsessed with their products. They're super high performance beauty and skincare products, and they're made with clean, skin loving ingredients that you can trust. They're amazing. Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara. I love this product. I use it practically every single day. It is an incredible best-selling product. It has more than 15,000 five-star reviews. It's really different from other mascaras. It even comes off differently. It's like this tubular kind of thing. It mimics the look of lash extensions without damaging glue or like salon prices or anything like that. It has these clean, nourishing ingredients, and it's really ultra lengthening, eye opening. It lasts all day, doesn't smudge, doesn't flake or anything like that. And it comes off super easily with just warm water and a washcloth. You don't even need soap. It's really, really great. And I'm also obsessed with their Brilliant Eye Brightener. Their Aurora color, I use it practically every day because it just gives your eye this, brightens your eye, gives us this instant lift. It looks really like natural. I love it. It's this like cream to powder highlighter stick. It's brilliant. I highly, highly recommend it. I also love they have all incredible skincare products. Today I was using, and I've been using their Defying Gravity Eye Lifting Cream, and it just brightens the skin around your eyes. It really gives it a lot of hydration. It reduces dark circles and puffiness. And, you know, as a mom, I might need a little of that once in a while. So all of these incredible products, and then the bigger than beauty mission. For every product purchased, Thrive Cosmetics donates to help women thrive. This is women emerging from homelessness, surviving domestic abuse, fighting cancer, and more. So incredibly clean, incredibly good, and doing a good cause when you purchase their products. I mean, it's win, win, win. So now is a great time to try Thrive Cosmetics yourself. You can get 15% off your first order when you visit thrivecosmetics.com/hunter. You can find that link in the show notes wherever you're listening to this. Just scroll down, you'll see it in a highlighted link in the notes. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/hunter for 15% off your first order. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we in mindful parenting, we get people sometimes who, it's sort of agnostic as to like exactly where you want to have those boundaries, but we have a lot of people who are afraid to make boundaries sometimes. And the truth is your needs matter, and when
Yes.
a child's behavior is interfering with your needs, like, yeah, you got to have a boundary, and we don't have to be mean about it. Like, we're afraid to be that, we don't want to be that harsh, mean parent maybe that we had. But I mean, I don't know. When my daughter was 2 and she didn't want to get dressed in the morning, it was like, all right, well, I'm packing up your clothes and we're going to go to school, and I'm giving this baggie to your teacher. And yeah, Sora
Yes.
didn't want to get dressed this morning. So here you go. It looks like she has to get dressed at school today. And that was pretty darn embarrassing, I think, for her, even at a young age. And so that was it for that. I mean, like, we can have those boundaries as far as like our expectations. Absolutely. I agree. And that makes kids feel cared for, right? To have
Yes.
some
Yes.
boundaries matters.
Yes, they need that. I mean, the psych research backs that up ad nauseum, for lack of a better word. I mean, it just shows that you have to have some kind of structure, because that adds to their sense of safety. And when they have that safe sense of safety and you're consistent with it as best you can be, then they get a sense of security, which then gives them the foundation for, okay, I know you fed me, so I'm satiated. Now I can actually start looking at the other needs that need to be met in terms of relationships, activities and things of that nature.
Creativity,
Yes.
autonomy, all those different
Right.
things.
All those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you saying is that when they're little,
hmm
yes, like, provide all the love and nurturing and all that stuff, and boundaries, right? Like,
hmm
have those boundaries,
Yes.
and
Yes.
if you need some help with those, dear listener, go get on the wait list for mindfulparentingcourse.com. We help you with that
hmm
enormously. But so, and then as they get to be the tweens and the teens, Uh, is there more work that, like, what is the mindset that we as mothers need to kinda go into? I mean, I hear that we need to recognize our kids are gonna differentiate from us,
Mhm.
but what are some of the things that we need to recognize within ourselves? Do we have to, like, look at our own relationship with our own mothers? Like, what is some of the work that we should be kind of considering as our daughters get into that little older stage?
Actually, that's why one of the reasons why I wrote my book, What Mothers Never Tell Their Daughters, it was for that very reason, to actually give moms tools in a very conversational tone of the book, around figuring out how they're thinking and feeling and behaving in response to, or sorry, in reaction to things that are going on during that transition period. Because um, and parents and men and women do this, where they can sometimes think that the way in which they parented, and I'm using air quotes, when they were younger works the same. And it's really about giving your kids, and your daughters in particular, the foundation of their sense of self, so that they can then make decisions about what, or learn about what they're good at, what they want to pursue, who they want to be later on, where you're not going to react, but mostly respond. And what moms can do to have that mindset is about almost like being a detective and being curious
Mm,
within themselves with regards to, gee, how have I been reacting lately?
mm,
And where I think they miss it, and which is what I appreciate about your work, is what's going on in my body. Because our
mhm,
body is the storyteller here. If you tense, there's a reason.
mhm,
And my whole thing is pause to consider. I'm tense right now. What's making me tense right now? Have I reacted to my daughter or children a certain way? And then realize that you can make a choice to do differently. Not that you'll all of a sudden wake up with the light bulb and say, I'm doing this quote unquote perfectly and I'm never going to make mistakes. No, actually, when you do make mistakes, it's actually an opportunity to acknowledge that your imperfection can actually be a point of connection with your daughter, because as you respond to yourself, she'll see that in the moment and learn from you how to respond and work through when you make mistakes.
I love that.
If we continue to, like, you know, uh kind of pressure ourselves to live up to this, what I think is an unattainable standard that society puts out there as to what a good mom is, uh you're going to respond to mistakes a certain way, and that will just continue the generational cycle of of all that stuff.
I love what you said right there. Your imperfection can be a point of connection
Right.
with your daughter.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful. Like, that's what we need to hear, right? Like, it's not about
It's not
just
about being,
saying all the perfect right things.
no, it's not.
You're allowed to be human.
Right.
You're allowed to make mistakes, and then that is the truth. Like, sometimes that repair process does make you closer than if you didn't have any conflicts in the first
Exactly.
place, right?
Exactly, exactly. Whenever I've gone out to speak and women come up to me afterwards, you know, they're sometimes I'll hear, someone say, "Oh, my mother and I had a really close relationship." And, I'm like, "Hey, cool beans. Awesome. I'm really happy for you." But I've found that if I listen long enough and they keep talking, inevitably they'll hit upon some part where they were at odds with their mom about something, however mild or whatever. It's all about, as you were alluding to, the repair. Well, has that been repaired, not just in your own heart and mind,
Hmm,
but with your mom? Whether if she's living, great, there's an opportunity there. If she's not, that's okay. You can still have the conversation
hmm.
within yourself, because she's much alive in you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, I believe that as well, right? Like
mhm,
our parents are in us.
mhm,
They are within us, right? Like all
mhm,
our ancestors are within us
mhm.
in the same way our descendants are in some ways. It's so fascinating. Yeah, it's so interesting. You're making me think about my mom, and my mom listens to most of the podcasts. Hi,
Hi,
mom.
mom.
And
Uh,
it's so interesting, because I can remember some instances, like, and I can sort of tell one story about things, and I can remember some instances and tell another story about things. And I think that, I mean, do you think that that story we tell, but our my overall, I mean, it's funny because sometimes, so I teach how to do a loving kindness meditation. And in a loving kindness meditation, you often start, or your next, you actively send love to somebody who's easy to love.
mhm,
And that's usually my mom these days. Like, she's just
mm,
easy to love.
mhm,
And and um and it's interesting, because I think if I had, depending on the stories you focus on, and the way you tell those stories to yourself, it really frames your relationship.
mhm.
I mean, do you see that? I mean, obviously you must in your psychology training. Like, do you invite people to um, consider alternate framing for their stories? Or I mean, what about
Well
the sort of like our own relationships with our own mothers? And
well
yeah.
well, I don't advocate denial.
Yeah, no,
Like
no, denial is not good.
denial, not good.
Oh, no,
But
but for instance, actually, this is a good example. Really great book. I'm gonna recommend it to you. Strange
okay,
Situation, Bethany Saltman. She
okay.
came on the podcast recently,
Mhm,
and I think that both conversations we released the same month. But um, she had a whole story about her mom, about her attachment to her that she had told because of certain things. And then when she discovered that she was securely actually was securely attached to her mom, she started to remember all these other things, and reframe a story of like, oh, I was reaching out for her.
mhm,
I needed her, rather
mhm,
than I was in a bed. It was interesting to kind of see sort of different sides of the same story.
mhm.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, not denial.
Oh, no, no, no. No, actually, I mean, that happens, in, say, the clinical work that I do, as a mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, in the mother-daughter work that I do, I'm all about giving moms tools and strategies to get in tune with what's really going on in their thought about whatever their story is, and
Mm,
to get to a place of accepting it open-handedly, so that they can gain an understanding not just about themselves in the moment, but also about where their mom is or was coming from in
mm,
the moment
mhm,
or in
mhm.
whatever story. And
So,
so,
like,
and
less judge you're what you're
I'm not
advocating
about
here is, like, less judgment and more curiosity about both themselves and their mothers.
right. I mean, I contend that we judge because we're insecure. And
Mm,
so, I'm not about judging. I'm all about folks they're gaining an understanding. I mean, there's this Jewish proverb that talks about, if you have a house, wisdom builds it, but understanding is what furnishes it. And the furnishings in the home
mm.
that you're creating, I mean, you ever walk into a, house that has no furniture? It's kind of stark and cold.
Yeah,
But
makes a big impact.
when you get furniture in there, then there are cozy places. Then there are places that, bring up good memories. There are places that may not bring up good memories, but that you can at least objectively look at them
Mm,
open-handedly to say, okay, well, what was going on? How do I really feel? And I find that um, women and guys do it differently, but women have a hard time sometimes uh, admitting how they really feel because of all the
mm,
pressures that are put on them and then all the busyness, we as moms, especially moms, but just women in general have to deal with both, personally and professionally. So we're balancing all of that. So it's really hard for moms to pause, which is why that's my big thing. You need to pause to consider your behavior.
you and I are very much aligned in that, of course.
I know, that's why I'm excited to be here. Yes, yes.
Michelle, this is so fascinating. And you're really advocating like a mindful relationship, right? Like
Mhm.
um really being not reactive, really trying to step back and see the big picture and understand and be curious. I love that. I love that so much. What what made you want to work with mothers and daughters? Like what was the driving force behind this?
Wow. It wasn't something that when I went into my doctoral program that I was looking to do. Actually, I studied more the transitions of teenagers from high school to college. That was what my dissertation was on, because that was on my heart from a Fortune 500 company that I worked for. It was an experience I had there with a young lad who I was like, whoa, I really want to be able to do something to help here them transition to college. But after I, um, was working in a Division 1 university counseling center, my family moved from New Jersey to North Carolina, and being an athlete myself, uh, I was running Spartan races with my husband, and we moved into our house. I had a
Spartan races. Oh my
yes.
god, our sound editor did like he works on Spartan races.
Oh, okay, yes. So
Shout out Sam.
That's awesome. So there I am in the new house, and had a fluke accident, and 2 hip surgeries later, found myself as a mom of twin
Oof.
daughters in high school. Really, that was one of my big pauses, okay, where it was sort of like, how am I looking at myself as a mom if I can't move around, if I can't be in step with my daughters? and and
That's so hard.
receive help. Okay, because I'm not superwoman, what? And so as I was convalescing, I had the thought occurred to me, well, what's really on my heart? And the reason why that thought occurred to me was because in the cul-de-sac where we were living, we had a lot of younger moms who had daughters and sons, but I was noticing that they were interacting with their daughters differently. And this was just like as a, civilian, just living out there.
Yeah.
And they would talk to me all the time. And I kept thinking, man, they're asking me the same questions all the time. They don't notice that how they're interacting with their daughters differently. I'd like to help more moms. And so what was on my heart was to write my book. And because I
Mm,
always said, when I was younger, I'll write a book one day, but I don't want to write anything if I don't have anything to say. And what was really on my heart was I really didn't want moms to make the same mistake that or have their daughters experience the same thing that I experienced as a daughter of a single mom who had all the pressures and just didn't know how to be there for me emotionally,
mm,
because she was dealing with everything else that she had to deal with. So I wanted to kind of help change the trajectory of the next generation by helping moms be comfortable having those conversations with their daughters. Um,
mm,
and I was finding that their discomfort was because they themselves hadn't paused to consider, well, what is it that's making me uncomfortable about this?
mm,
And so the book is really sort of like a conversation with if you were to go with me to Starbucks and we're just having a conversation. That's how the book is written, where I'm telling you stories about my life as a daughter of a single mom, then my life as the mom of twin daughters. And then at the end of each chapter, I put on my psych hat and start asking, well, what did you notice? And then
mm.
that's in the first part of the book. In the second part of the book, I'm like, well, this is the process that will kind of help you just start the journey. And then I give tools and strategies in the book around how to have those conversations with your daughter.
I love that. What did you want from your mom that she wasn't able to give you?
I wanted her to see me. I always felt like um, she was living through me,
Mm,
and 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 that if I didn't meet that expectation of being or acting or appearing the way that she wanted,
mm,
then I wasn't good enough, that I had missed the mark. And so the way I dealt with that I mean, again, I loved my mom and our
mhm,
relationship, even though it wasn't close when I was growing up, um, when I actually got engaged to get married and we started the whole repair process. And
Mm,
so, I can say that, we ended up having a better relationship. But one of the ways in which I dealt with her criticisms, she was very critical. It was a Jamaican household,
mm.
King's English, everything prim and proper, you're seen and not heard kind of stuff. And when we do call you, you need to perform kind of stuff. So the way in which I dealt with that was to just throw myself into my academics because that was something I was good at. No one could complain about it. I was a straight A student all the way up through, my education, and I was also a really good athlete because sports was the first place where I got validation about anything that I was good at.
Mm.
And so, I hung out with the dudes. We played football and basketball and baseball, and I ended up being a varsity athlete in softball and then a walk on in college at Brown. But um, that's the way I dealt with it. And
Huh.
then yeah, and then I ended up, having those different light bulb moments that 20 something year olds and 30 something year olds have, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's beautiful. I mean, it's interesting because we can look back at those things and say, we understand like where our parents are coming from. Like we can
Mhm,
explore that and understand that and still say, and yeah, and this is how I felt through that, right? And and
mhm,
and these are the needs I didn't have met around
mhm.
that. Um, yeah, I think that's really helpful to kind of look at that and see that. Yeah, I had a similar experience actually, like with my dad. For a while, I was like working I went to school for art conservation, and then I went to graduate school, was like doing painting, and I taught high school art for a while.
Oh,
And then I had like shows, like I was in group shows in New York. I was in some pretty cool galleries and stuff. And like
nice.
he's an artist, and I was like living his dream. And I
Mm,
pivoted, obviously,
mm.
and I work. Actually, it's some of the same stuff I deal with. My best work is about mothers and they're like pregnant beast women. They're like these like angry like predator beast women. Anyway,
Oh god.
um, but like it's so interesting because I felt so like, it's like there was so much like excitement and pride and everything. And now that it's like he hasn't quite read the whole book yet. It's been out for like 3 years. I'm like, come on, dad.
I'm good, right?
Like I mean, I love my dad. He's amazing. He's a
Mhm,
great guy. He struggles in a lot of ways. That's
mhm.
amazing. But and you went to Brown. That's amazing. Right?
Yes.
Brown
Yes, mhm,
University?
yep, yep.
I One of my first boyfriends was a college freshman at Brown when I was a high school junior or something.
Oh gosh, neat.
Anyway, he was great. Just as a side note, he like he gave me my first Ani DeFranco album, which was like a tape at that point, Puddle
Right,
Die, that
right.
has a song on it about getting your period. He took me to see
Mm.
Wilma Mankiller, like chief of the like Cherokee Nation, speak at Brown. He was
Oh,
like a
man.
contact improv dancer. I was like, wow, this
Mhm.
is so different from the local boys. Brown's got its
Yes,
own like
yes.
special little world there
Yes,
going
it
on.
does. Yes, it does. It's a great place.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so one thing I wanted to though pick up on, which I imagine the listener might be like being like, but what happened there? When you were in that cul-de-sac
Mhm,
for the parents of the young
mm,
kids, what were the mistakes you were seeing? Like you were seeing this like kind of lack of reflection, right? This lack of self-awareness.
mhm,
That's clear. Like that's definitely the
mhm,
underlying key there. But what
mhm.
was happening in the kind of surface conversations that you were seeing?
Yeah, it was the way in which they spoke about their daughters,
Huh.
um, as opposed to the way they spoke about their sons. With their sons, okay, they'd go rumble, tussle, or maybe do something they weren't supposed to do, and it'd be like, "Oh, he's just being a boy." Whereas with their daughters, it was more like, "Yeah, she's just a little prissy, da 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 da." Just like
Mm,
it was
more
almost
judgment,
like,
you're saying?
yeah, more judgmental, not as gracious towards
Mm.
their daughters. And the thing that would pain my heart was what they weren't picking up on is they would be, say, the moms would just be around each other, right? And the daughters are off, whatever, and they would talk about their daughters that way, but they wouldn't see how it would um, influence their interactions with their daughters when the daughters would come running back up to where they were.
Oh.
That's the part where it's sort of like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't see how the comment you just made there, actually, she didn't hear the comment, but the way in which you're interacting with her now is reflecting that comment that she wasn't even aware of, that
Huh.
you said. And again, it's not like the mothers were out there purposing to do this. This is just
Yeah.
what they were doing. Okay. And again, I'm not pointing fingers or laying blame. It was
Yeah.
them not understanding what was going on, because then they'd come to me knowing what I did for a living back then when I was doing therapy mostly. Um, and they would, ask me, what should I do about X, Y, and Z? And I would just pause. And it's like, well, first, you need to come to my office to answer that fully. But, um, you might want to consider this, that, and the other thing, not knowing that they were, you know, perpetuating cycles of things that they were complaining about.
You're really talking about the problem with like a lack of self-awareness and just kind of perpetuating kind of things in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, I feel I always felt very uncomfortable with like the way we parent boys and girls really differently,
Hmm.
and the conversations that would come up, oh boys this, and I felt a little frustrated and uncomfortable with that, and but it's interesting because I could see some of the ways those parts of culture influenced me, like when my oldest daughter, who, in another era, not too long ago, she would have been called BOSSY as a kid, right? Like that would have been given to her. That
Uh-huh,
label would have given to her a lot.
uh-huh.
And I could see my like kind of I could see that coming up in me. And I was like, oh, I'm like, well, she has leadership potential, man. And the truth is, and the truth is she does have leadership potential. She's
Mhm.
going to be a Eagle Scout now. Like she is the leader of her all girls Boy Scout troop, right? Like, and and that is something that's incredibly positive for her.
Mhm,
It's so
mhm.
interesting though that I don't know, the way these kind of stereotypes and habits and energies from our culture can really just come up, and we don't, if unexamined, we're not even realizing it.
Yeah, and again, I'm not about laying blame anywhere. This is really about gaining an understanding, because we all, can fall into patterns. It's like, I'll never do that just like my mother did. And then you find yourself, like I did with our daughters when they were younger. It's like, whoa, I'm repeating a pattern here. What's going on with me? Let me take a look at that. So that's why I sound like a broken record, but really about pausing to consider your behavior. And, one quick way to get in tune with that is to really get in tune with your body and what's going on with your body. I just
Yeah.
was telling someone earlier today that this year, even though I kind of dabbled in it a little bit off and on over the years, this year I just really decided I'm going to do some yoga stretching exercises every day, which I do every morning now, um, just to give myself space to find out what's going on in my body,
Yeah.
and I'll just attend to that throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really the heart of mindfulness. It's like
Yes.
being in the animate body. There's an incredible book called The Heart of Meaning. Ah, dang it. He's gonna be on the podcast soon. So I'm like messing up his book name. Uh that I'm so excited about. But he
Hmm.
talks about this idea of the conscious mind and the animate body. And I love that the description of like the animate body. And that
Hmm.
really is what mindfulness is about. It's like being in our practicing to be in our animate body. And yoga is so good
Yes.
for that. So good
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
Michelle, this is wonderful. I could talk to you forever. I'm gonna come down to
Mm.
North Carolina to your cul-de-sac. We're gonna sit outside
And
and
have some sweet tea they have down here. Yes, that's
have some sweet tea
an
and
acquired taste.
chit chat for another couple more hours.
Yeah, but I'll definitely have you on my podcast too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to that conversation. so we can
Cool.
continue.
All
Yes.
right. All right. So this is part one, dear listener. You'll have to go to Michelle's podcast, Mother
Mother-daughter
Daughter
connect. Yeah,
Connections,
you got it.
to hear part two. Michelle, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate your time and all of those things, and your curiosity and your interest that drove you to do this wonderful work. Where people can obviously go listen to Mother Daughter Connections anywhere podcasts are found.
Mhm.
Where else can they find out more about you?
They can connect with me at my Facebook group, which is at Mother Daughter Connections, the letter F and the letter B. Mother Daughter Connections FB. Answer the 4 questions, and you get in the group, and I'm there. And in terms of if they want to learn more about me, my website is www.curativeconnections, which is curative, curative connections.com, and you can learn all about me there.
All right, awesome. Curative, not the COVID testing site.
No.
Curative
No, no.
Connections.
Right, right. You got it. That's funny.
For all of us who are so familiar now with that. That's so funny. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to come and talk to you more. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I certainly did, as the mother of 2 daughters, and I think that we can appreciate this incredible relationship. So listen, if you got anything out of this episode, please do this. Just take a screenshot of you listening to it, share it on your Instagram stories, tag me at Mindful Mama Mentor, and I want to hear your takeaways. It really means so much to me to get your takeaways, and it really matters to the podcast too, to getting the word out. We can make these relationships better. We can be part of this transformation. All these little things really matter. Getting good information out into the world. I know it's a noisy world, right? There's so much bad information. There's wrong information, all of this stuff. So I appreciate any help you can give to get out the information that's healing and helping us move in the right direction. So thank you so much. Yeah, take that screenshot. And tag me at Mindful Mama Mentor. And I'm wishing you a great week. Listen, if you need some help with some of the things that we talked about today, I have some free resources for you to help you stop yelling. And I can give you really my top best tools to stop yelling and the Mindful Parenting Roadmap. You can find that at mindfulmamamentor.com/stop yelling. And I have tons of resources for you when you sign up there for the mailing list. So please do that. So then you'll get the inside scoop on all the cool things anyway. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. You're here all the way to the end. Rock on for you. High five. So cool. And I'm so glad you're here. And I can't wait to talk to you again next week. I have another awesome guest. I have some on-air coaching calls coming up and all kinds of cool things. So I can't wait to see you again here on the Mindful Mama podcast. Thank you. And I'm wishing you a beautiful week. I'm wishing you peace and ease and joy with your family. Take care, my friend. Namaste.
I'd say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And just, I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this.
You can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clark Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You'll be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.